I was boarding a flight to Miami with my son and daughter-in-law when the flight attendant grabbed my arm and whispered, "Get off this plane right now. They're going to kill you." 20 minutes earlier, I thought this was just a family vacation. But let me back up. The afternoon sun came through my study window. I was grading old history papers from my teaching days, something I did when the house felt too quiet. Sarah had been gone 3 years now. Cancer took her fast. Some days I could still smell her perfume in the hallway. The front door opened downstairs. Daniel and Vanessa. They'd been living here 8 months, ever since Daniel's gambling debts got bad enough that they lost their apartment. Their footsteps on the stairs sounded purposeful. Vanessa appeared in my doorway first. Daniel hung back, hands in pockets, eyes on the floor. Couldn't look at me straight anymore. "Robert, we need to talk," Vanessa said, voice smooth like a nurse delivering bad news. I took off my reading glasses. "About what?" "Family," Daniel said. "Spending time together. Quality time." "Miami," he continued. "Remember when we went when I was 12? Let's do it again. Whole week, our treat." "You hated that trip," I said. "Wanted to come home after 2 days." Daniel's smile faltered. "I was a kid. I see it different now." I studied them both. 8 months of barely speaking to me. Now suddenly they wanted quality time. "When would this be?" I asked. "Next week," Vanessa said quickly. "Everything's arranged. We just need your yes." That evening, Vanessa cooked dinner. She never cooked. Daniel poured wine with shaking hands. "So this was planned without asking me," I said. "We wanted it to be a surprise," Daniel said. Vanessa set a plate in front of me. "Robert, your life insurance policy. It's $350,000, right? Very responsible planning." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "How do you know the amount?" Daniel mentioned it once, just conversation. I looked at my son. He stared at his plate, wouldn't meet my eyes. Bringing up my life insurance at dinner felt wrong, felt planned. "I haven't been sleeping well," I said, testing them. "My heart feels strange sometimes." Daniel's eyes brightened for just a second before he caught himself. "You should see a doctor." "You look fine to me," Vanessa cut him off. "Probably just stress." They exchanged a glance. Quick, but I caught it. Something passed between them that made my chest tighten. After dinner, I found printed flight confirmations on the counter, already booked. My ticket already purchased for Tuesday. They'd been certain I'd say yes. 40 years teaching history taught me one thing. People leave evidence. Always. Morning came. Daniel knocked on my door at 7, smile too bright. "So, Dad, Miami, what do you say?" I looked at him for a long moment. "I'll go." Relief flooded his face. "Great. That's wonderful." I spent the morning packing, but my mind was working. Sarah used to say I couldn't turn off the teacher brain. Right now, that brain was screaming something was very wrong. I packed my medication in my carry-on instead of checked luggage. Small precaution. Daniel's car smelled like stale coffee. Neither of them spoke on the drive to Orlando International. Daniel gripped the wheel too tight. Vanessa typed on her phone, messages appearing and disappearing. At the airport, Vanessa insisted I go through security first, her hand firm on my shoulder. She watched my carry-on go through the scanner, leaning forward like she was checking something. At the gate, Daniel and Vanessa boarded immediately with Zone 1. My ticket was Zone 3. They disappeared without looking back. When my zone was called, I walked toward the aircraft. That's when it happened. A flight attendant approached me. Her name tag read, Karen Hayes. She pretended to check my boarding pass, but leaned close. "Pretend you're feeling ill and leave this aircraft," she whispered. I froze. "Excuse me?" She'd already moved away. I stood there, confused. I took another step when Karen returned, hands shaking. "Sir, I'm begging you. You need to get off this plane now." I looked into her eyes, saw real terror. "You're serious," I said quietly. "I've never been more serious in my life." Her fingers dug into my sleeve. "Please, Dad? Everything okay?" Daniel's voice from down the aisle, sharp. I made the decision in a heartbeat. My hand went to my chest. My chest. I can't. I dropped to one knee. The performance came naturally because the fear was real. Everything happened fast. Flight crew surrounded me. Someone called for a wheelchair. They wheeled me back while Daniel and Vanessa watched. I caught their faces. Not concern. Disappointment. "This ruins everything," I heard Vanessa hiss. "Not here," Daniel hissed back. They wheeled me to the medical area. My phone buzzed. Text from Daniel. "Dad, hope you feel better. We'll call when we land." I watched through the window as the aircraft pushed back. Daniel and Vanessa were on that plane, getting smaller, more distant. "Mr. Mitchell." I turned. Karen stood there, still in uniform, off duty now. Her face was pale. "We need to talk," she said. "Now, somewhere private." The medical room was small, fluorescent lights buzzing. A paramedic had just cleared me, vitals fine, probably anxiety, and left me alone. Karen entered, closed the door, checked the hallway once. "I need to show you something." Her voice shook. "What I'm about to do could cost me my job, but I can't let this happen." She pulled out her phone, hands trembling. "I recorded her, your daughter-in-law, near the gate before boarding." The video showed a quiet corner. The audio was clear enough. Vanessa's voice. "The pills are in his carry-on. Once we're at altitude, you slip them in his drink. Heart attack, untraceable. 350,000. Daniel, you know what happens if you back out now." A pause. Then she laughed. I watched it 3 times, each time. The horror deepened. My daughter-in-law discussing my death like a business transaction. Who was she talking to? My voice came out steady somehow. "Your son. He was right there with her." I couldn't see much, but I heard him say, "What if someone sees?" She told him no one would suspect anything. I looked at Karen directly. "Why did you do this? Risk your career for a stranger?" Pain crossed her face. "My father, 3 years ago. His nephew convinced him to change his will. Then he fell downstairs. They ruled it accidental." Her jaw tightened. I couldn't prove anything. When I heard that conversation, I couldn't stay silent again. "I'm sorry about your father." "Don't be sorry." Her voice hardened. "Stop them." The taxi ride home took 40 minutes. My house appeared ahead, 2-story colonial. Sarah and I had raised Daniel here. Now it felt violated. I went straight to my study. Filing cabinet held decades of documents. I spread everything across the dining room table. Hours passed. Light faded to darkness. I found it. The life insurance beneficiary form, dated 6 months ago, changed from Emily's education trust to Daniel Mitchell. The signature tried to mimic my handwriting but failed. The capital R in Robert was wrong, too elaborate. I photographed it. Evidence preservation. More digging revealed bank statements showing unauthorized transfers. 38,000 over 6 months, siphoned in amounts small enough to escape notice. A power of attorney document granting Daniel financial authority. Signed with my forged name. Medical records I'd never seen, documenting cognitive decline I'd never experienced. They'd been building a paper trail while I taught evening classes at the community center. Evidence, timeline, motive, method, I said aloud. Old teaching habit. They planned this for months. This wasn't impulsive. This was systematic. I sat in my reading chair past midnight. My son was in Miami, probably reassuring Vanessa they'd find another opportunity. They didn't know I had the recording. Didn't know I'd found their forged documents. Time to apply 40 years of teaching to my own survival. 3 days later, Marcus Bennett arrived at 2 o'clock. Mid-50s, gray threading through dark hair, a state law specialist with 20 years' experience. Mr. Mitchell, walk me through what you found. I slid the first folder across. Blue tab, financial documents. Marcus's composure cracked as he read. Forged signatures, altered beneficiaries, fraudulent power of attorney. Your daughter-in-law was a medical administrator? Silver Palms Medical Center. She'd have access to patient records, document templates, physician signatures. She created your medical history, made you incompetent on paper while you were teaching night classes. I pulled out Daniel's laptop from my desk. He left this here. I know his passwords. Set up his computer 3 years ago when he asked for help. He gave me admin access. Never revoked it. Marcus took the laptop, connected an external drive. Within minutes, deleted emails resurrected themselves. Email chains between Daniel and someone calling himself a medical consultant. Discussion of substances causing heart failure, untraceable in autopsy, particularly effective at high altitude. Price negotiated, $10,000. Marcus's jaw tightened. This is a murder contract. He found the draft will on Daniel's desktop. Everything left to Daniel and Vanessa Mitchell. My signature forged at the bottom. Marcus leaned back. Robert, this goes beyond estate fraud. This is conspiracy to commit murder, forgery, elder abuse, criminal charges. My phone buzzed. Daniel's text. Dad, where are you? We need to talk about your health. We need to decide, Marcus said. Bring in police now, or build an ironclad case first. Build the case first, I said. Make it undeniable. They're going to realize when I file protective orders, Marcus said. Block accounts, revoke fraudulent documents. Good. Let them panic. Panicked people make mistakes. Over the next 10 days, I became two people. To Daniel and Vanessa, I was the confused old man, shuffling around, asking where I'd left things, which pills to take. Every mistake carefully calibrated to reinforce their forged medical narrative. To Marcus and myself, I was something else entirely. Security cameras went up throughout the house. 12 of them. Not obvious surveillance, just a concerned elderly man worried about break-ins. Daniel approved enthusiastically. He didn't examine the specs. Didn't realize they recorded audio. Didn't understand that every whispered conversation was being captured and uploaded to cloud storage only I could access. The cameras paid dividends immediately. The plane was supposed to work, Vanessa hissed late one night in the dining room. Now we're back to square one. You said the pills were undetectable, Daniel shot back. I said a lot of things. Now we need plan B. The incompetency route. Look at him lately. He's already halfway there. I recorded it all, face expressionless in the darkness above them. Marcus filed the protective orders on day 10. Account freezes, power of attorney revocations, all with delayed notification. They won't know until they try to access funds, Marcus explained. Then panic. The explosion came on day 12. I was at my desk when the front door slammed. Heavy footsteps pounded up the stairs. I stayed calm, pen steady over my papers, waiting. Daniel burst into my study. What did you do? I looked up slowly. Did what? The bank. Our accounts are frozen. They say you filed protective orders, that we're under investigation. He stopped, face draining. Vanessa appeared behind him, controlled as always. Robert, this is clearly a banking error. Your confusion. I'm not confused. I set down my pen. I know exactly what's happening. You forged my signature, stole $38,000, planned to murder me for insurance money. Silence. The air felt vacuum tight. Daniel's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Dr. Rodriguez confirmed I'm perfectly competent, I continued. Karen recorded your conversation about pills and altitude. Marcus has your emails about untraceable poisons. Vanessa's face went white. That's impossible. I deleted. Nothing's ever truly deleted, Vanessa. I taught digital literacy for 5 years. Did you really think I couldn't recover files? Daniel dropped against the wall, sliding down. Dad, please. I can explain. Explain how you negotiated my murder for $10,000. Explain how you forged documents while I taught classes twice a week. I stood. Get out of my house. Both of you. Now. They didn't move. Security cameras installed 2 weeks ago, I said quietly. Recorded everything, including you discussing Plan B in the dining room. This conversation's recorded too. Either leave now, or I call police for trespassing. Vanessa grabbed Daniel's arm, pulled him up. This isn't over, she hissed. Yes, I said. It is. But I had one more call to make, one more piece that would make the case complete. I dialed a number I hadn't called in 2 years. Jessica, it's Robert. I need to talk to you about Daniel and Emily. It's urgent. Jessica arrived the next morning with Emily. My granddaughter had grown so much. 12 now, with Sarah's eyes and Daniel's chin. Grandpa! She hugged me tight. Hey, sweetheart. I held her for a long moment. Come sit down. We need to talk about something serious. I showed them everything. Not the graphic details, but enough. The forged documents, the emails about poisons, Karen's recording, the systematic theft. Oh my God, Jessica whispered. Robert, I'm so sorry. When did the gambling start? I asked. Jessica's eyes filled. After Sarah died, he couldn't handle losing her. Started with sports betting, just $5, $10. By the time I realized how bad it was, he owed $20,000. That was 2 years ago. And now? $45,000. Loan sharks calling. Threats. That's when Vanessa suggested the solution. Your insurance policy. Emily had tears running down her face. Dad tried to kill you? I knelt in front of her, took her hands. Your dad made terrible choices, Emily. Adult choices with adult consequences. But this is not your fault. None of this is your fault. I don't understand. Why would he? Weakness. But you're not weak. You're smart and kind like your grandmother Sarah, and I'm going to make sure you stay that way. Jessica wiped her eyes. What do you need from us? Testimony about Daniel's gambling, about why you divorced him, and I need you to let me set up Emily's education trust properly, protected, where they can never touch it. Done, Jessica said immediately. Whatever you need. And one more thing. I looked at Emily. After this is over, I want you to spend more time here, with me. Your grandmother would have wanted that. Emily nodded, crying. I'd like that, Grandpa. 6 months later, trial day arrived. 6 months of legal motions, depositions, delays. Marcus had warned me, justice is slow. But justice, when it comes, is thorough. The courtroom filled quickly. Media present. Daniel and Vanessa sat with their attorney, looking diminished, defeated before verdict was announced. I sat behind the prosecution table, posture straight, calm. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The prosecutor's opening statement outlined the conspiracy clearly. Evidence will show defendants plotted to murder Robert Mitchell for insurance money. They researched methods, obtained substances, created false documents. Only intervention by alert flight attendant prevented this murder. Defense offered a weak argument about family misunderstandings, financial stress, poor communication. The jury's attention remained on prosecution. The prosecution's case built methodically. Karen's recording played over the courtroom speakers. Vanessa's voice, clinical and cold. The pills are in his carry-on. Once we're at altitude, you slip them in his drink. Heart attack, untraceable, 350,000. Several jurors visibly recoiled. Karen testified about why she intervened. My father died under suspicious circumstances 3 years ago. I couldn't prove anything then. When I heard that conversation, I couldn't stay silent again. The defense tried attacking her credibility, financial distress, unreliable witness. I was in financial distress, Karen said firmly. That's exactly why I understand desperation. But I didn't let it make me a killer. Jessica testified about Daniel's gambling, the debts that destroyed their marriage, the loan sharks, the threats. He borrowed $15,000 from my parents and never paid it back. That's when I knew I had to protect Emily. Robert was more of a father to her than Daniel ever was. When I took the stand, I looked directly at the jury. My granddaughter Emily lost her grandmother to cancer 3 years ago. She was losing her father to gambling and weakness long before that. These defendants planned to murder me for insurance money, and in doing so, rob Emily of the one stable figure left in her life. I fought this case not just for justice, but for her future. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination. Mr. Mitchell, isn't it true you've been paranoid since your wife died? We have affidavits from neighbors claiming you've accused them of various things. From neighbors paid by Vanessa to lie, I interrupted calmly. Check their bank accounts. $500 deposited 2 days after they signed those statements. The prosecution has those records. The defense attorney's face went pale. He glanced at his notes, then at Vanessa, who stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. No further questions, he muttered. Several jurors leaned forward, expressions hardening. Marcus had been right. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged documents verified by handwriting experts. Bank records showing systematic theft. Email chains discussing my murder. Medical records exposed as fraudulent when cross-referenced with my community college teaching schedule and witness testimony. But Marcus had also uncovered something else, something that made Vanessa's crimes even darker. A private investigator's report entered as evidence. Vanessa Carter, before she became Carter Mitchell, born Vanessa Reed in Tampa, worked as blackjack dealer at Seminole Casino 2015-2018. That's where she met Marcus Thompson, her first husband, and later, Daniel Thompson, age 55, recent widower, life insurance policy worth $200,000, married Vanessa in 2018, dead within 14 months. Fall downstairs, ruled accidental, but the responding officers had noted inconsistencies. Bruising that didn't match the fall pattern. Missing safety rail that Vanessa claimed was always broken. Timeline issues with her 911 call. The prosecutor walked the jury through it carefully. While we cannot retry Mr. Thompson's case here, the pattern is clear. Vulnerable men, life insurance, suspicious deaths or near deaths. This was not impulse. This was method. When verdict time came, the jury deliberated less than 3 hours. The foreman stood. On all counts, we find the defendants guilty. 18 guilty verdicts, each one landing like a hammer. Daniel stood suddenly, voice breaking. Dad, please, I'm sorry. I was desperate. Vanessa said it was the only way. Shut up, Vanessa hissed. She said you wouldn't feel anything, Daniel sobbed. She said it would be quick. I never wanted. Bailiff, restrain the defendant, the judge ordered. I watched them take my son away, still crying, still weak. Felt nothing but pity and the cold certainty that I'd done what had to be done. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge's voice was firm. Mr. Mitchell, you've requested leniency for your son despite the gravity of these crimes. You've stated you want to spare your granddaughter further trauma. This court respects that. However, the law requires accountability. Daniel Mitchell, you are sentenced to 3 years in state prison, eligible for parole after 18 months, followed by 5 years probation. You will participate in mandatory gambling addiction treatment and are permanently stripped of parental rights regarding Emily Mitchell. Vanessa Carter Mitchell, your case is aggravated by evidence of a prior suspicious death and your abuse of medical credentials. You are sentenced to 6 years in state prison, no parole for the first 3 years. Your medical license is permanently revoked. The state of Florida will reopen the investigation into Marcus Thompson's death. Both defendants are ordered to repay $38,000 in stolen funds plus $50,000 in punitive damages. Permanent restraining orders are in effect. All inheritance rights are permanently revoked. Court adjourned. Outside on the courthouse steps, media waited. I gave a brief statement. Justice has been served. I hope this case reminds families that trust is sacred and betrayal carries consequences. More importantly, I hope it reminds grandparents everywhere that protecting our grandchildren's future is worth any fight. I declined further questions and walked to the parking garage, saw Daniel one final time, exiting through a side door, head down, avoiding cameras. Our eyes met briefly. He looked away first. I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just completion. Marcus drove me home. As we pulled into my driveway, he extended his hand. "You did good, Robert." "We did," I corrected. "Thank you." Inside my house, I stood in the quiet hallway. The house was mine again. Legally, physically, emotionally. I walked to my study, saw the timeline board covered with evidence and documentation. Carefully, methodically, I began taking it down. Each photo, each document removed and filed. The conspiracy existed. Justice was delivered. But I wouldn't live surrounded by reminders of betrayal. I placed all documentation in a banker's box, labeled it Daniel Mitchell, case closed, stored it in the closet. Not forgotten, but archived. Then I made 3 phone calls. First, to the high school principal. "I'm a retired history teacher with 40 years' experience. I'd like to volunteer, teaching 2 afternoons weekly. I have stories worth telling, lessons worth sharing." Second, to Jessica. "Emily can move in whenever she's ready. Her room is waiting. We'll get through this together." Third, to the Sarah Mitchell Scholarship Foundation I'd established with $100,000 from my insurance policy. First scholarship awarded in Emily Mitchell's name. Full ride to any college she chooses. Her grandmother would be proud. 2 months after sentencing, Emily and I stood at Sarah's grave. Fall leaves scattered across the headstone. Emily placed fresh flowers, white roses, Sarah's favorites. "Grandma would be proud of you," Emily said quietly. "She'd be proud of both of us. You're stronger than your father ever was. Do you think he'll change? In prison?" I considered the question honestly. I hope so. I hope those years teach him what I couldn't, but I'm not waiting around to find out. We're building something new now. You and me. The scholarship fund? That's just money, sweetheart. I'm talking about family. Real family. People who protect each other. Who tell the truth even when it hurts. Who keep their promises. Emily hugged me tight. "I promise I'll never lie to you, Grandpa." "I know. That's why everything I have will be yours someday. Not because you're my heir, because you're my family. The real kind." We stood in comfortable silence. Wind rustled through the cemetery trees. Somewhere a bird sang. "Grandpa?" Emily's voice was small. "Mom said Dad wrote you a letter from prison. Did you read it?" I had. Last week. 20 pages of apologies, explanations, justifications, weak words from a weak man trying to rebuild burned bridges. I read it. Are you going to write back? Not yet, maybe someday, but right now I'm focusing on the future, on you, on making sure you have everything your grandmother and I dreamed of for our family. What did you dream? Safety, education, character, strength to do what's right even when it's hard. I put my arm around her shoulders. Your grandmother taught me to fight for what matters. And you matter, Emily, more than anything. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too. Now come on. Your grandmother always said ice cream makes hard days better. This wasn't a hard day, Emily said, smiling. This was a good day. She was right, standing here with my granddaughter, honoring my wife's memory, knowing justice had been served and the future was secure. This was more than a good day. This was what victory looked like. Not revenge, not bitterness. but legacy preserved and passed forward to someone worthy of carrying it. We walked toward the car together. I didn't look back at the grave or the past, only forward, with Emily, toward everything Sarah had wanted for us both. That evening, Emily moved into her room, Sarah's old craft room, now painted soft blue with her grandmother's quilts on the bed. She hung photos of the three of us, from before cancer, before divorce, before betrayal. "Grandpa?" she called from upstairs. "Can you help me with my history homework?" I smiled. "History? Of course." "Coming, sweetheart." I climbed the stairs toward my granddaughter, toward the future, toward the family we were building from the ashes of the one that had tried to destroy me. 40 years I'd taught that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Emily would learn. She would be different. She would be strong. And I would make sure of it.